All right, let's jump right into this fascinating explainer of Dr. Stephen Meyer's recent sit-down on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Today, we're going to systematically unpack the scientific arguments that Meyer, along with a growing number of scientists, believes actually point toward an intelligent creator. Now look, we aren't here to take a side, but rather to really dig into the evidence that's currently being fiercely debated at the absolute highest levels of science and philosophy. I mean, we literally have to start right here. Why is there something rather than nothing? It is, without a doubt, the most profound philosophical question human beings can ask, and it totally drives this entire debate over the origin of our universe. Whether you're a devout believer or a staunch atheist, your worldview ultimately has to grapple with this single, massive mystery. Seriously, how did all of this get here?
You know that old stereotype that the scientific community is just universally atheistic? Well, it's actually not quite right. According to a recent Pew Center survey polling members of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, 33% of scientists do believe in God, and another 18% believe in some kind of universal spirit or higher power. So while 41% hold no such beliefs, over half actually do. And this data really sets the stage for what is becoming a rapidly shifting cultural landscape where deep spiritual beliefs and high-level science are existing side by side.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. We're going to hit 1. Reconsidering the God hypothesis. 2. The competing grand narratives. 3. Cosmology and a definite beginning. 4. Physics and the fine-tuning argument. 5. Biology and the code within cells. And finally, number 6, alternative theories. Let's get into it.
First up, Section 1. Reconsidering the God hypothesis. A cultural and scientific shift in perspective.
Moving right along to Section 2. 2 competing grand narratives. The fundamental divide in understanding reality.
Basically, at the heart of this entire debate, you've got two completely opposite viewpoints. On one side, we have the materialistic narrative. This is the view that the physical universe is eternal, it's self-existing, and that literally everything arose through unguided, undirected, and completely purposeless processes. On the flip side, we have the theistic narrative. This is an equally ancient story, asserting that reality was deliberately shaped by a great mind, one that intentionally brought matter and energy into existence. And honestly, every scientific discovery we're about to explore is essentially a battleground between these two ideas.
Which brings us to Section 3, Cosmology. A definite beginning, the discovery that time and space actually started. For the longest time, the standard materialistic assumption was that the physical universe was just eternal. It had always been here. But over the last century, modern observational astronomy and theoretical physics have turned that entirely on its head. Multiple lines of hard evidence now point to a definitive start to the universe, the Big Bang. And if the universe had a beginning, well, it completely reopens that ultimate causal question. It means it requires a cause.
So the absolutely crucial point is this. If matter, space, time, and energy all popped into existence at a specific point, then the thing that caused them, well, it can't be made of matter, space, time, or energy, right? According to Meyer, whatever caused the universe to begin must exist entirely outside of its physical properties. It literally has to transcend them. And philosophers argue that this perfectly describes the traditional classical concept of God.
All right, Section 4, Physics, the fine-tuning argument, exploring the incredibly precise parameters required for life. Since the 1950s, physicists have realized something wild. The fundamental forces of our universe fall into unbelievably narrow ranges. Picture it like a giant cosmic control board. If fundamental forces, things like the strength of gravity, the masses of elementary particles, or the expansion rate of the universe, were altered by even a microscopic tiny fraction, the whole universe would either collapse in on itself or just fail to form galaxies. Basic chemistry, and therefore any form of life, would be mathematically impossible. Literally everything falls into this impossibly precise sweet spot. And this mathematical reality? It was enough to completely blow the minds of some incredibly prominent scientists. Take Sir Fred Hoyle, for example. He was originally a strident scientific atheist. He actually coined the term Big Bang as a joke to mock the idea of the universe having a beginning. But he eventually concluded that a super intellect must have, in his words, monkeyed with physics and chemistry. The sheer improbability of it all just forced him to reconsider the whole thing.
Moving inward, let's hit Section 5, Biology, Code within cells, looking at information processing at the micro level. Our understanding of the cell has changed so drastically over the years. Back in Darwin's day, scientists thought the cell was just a simple globule of goo, like microscopic jello. So it was pretty easy to imagine life springing from a simple, random chemical reaction. But then in the 50s, Watson and Crick mapped DNA. By the 60s, physicists realized DNA bases function quite literally like digital machine code. Today we know the cell isn't goo at all. It's this highly automated factory, packed with these brilliant little nanomachines that are directed by an intricate digital computing system.
Meyer draws a really fascinating analogy here to modern artificial intelligence. Think about AI development today. There's this known problem called model collapse. If you feed an AI its own generated outputs over and over again, without fresh input from a conscious human intelligence, the whole system eventually breaks down into complete incoherence. Meyer points out that a very similar thing happens in origin-of-life chemical simulations. It's a phenomenon known as error catastrophe. The argument he's making is that meaningful functional information, whether it's the code in DNA or the input in an AI, fundamentally requires a conscious intelligence to generate it.
And just to impartially show how universally accepted this cellular complexity really is, we can look at Richard Dawkins. He's arguably the world's most famous evolutionary biologist and an incredibly outspoken atheist. Yet even Dawkins admits to being knocked sideways with wonder at the miniaturized intricacy of the data processing system inside the living cell. The machinery itself is undeniable. The debate is entirely about how that machinery got there in the first place.
All right, final part. Section 6, Alternative Theories and Ultimate Questions, exploring other explanations for the evidence.
Now, one major counterargument to Meyer relies on this massive, mind-boggling number, 93 billion. That is the diameter of our observable universe in light years. The argument goes that the universe is just so unbelievably vast, containing literally trillions of galaxies, that sheer probability dictates life just had to pop up eventually. Under this view, the fine-tuning of Earth isn't a miracle, it's just math. We just happen to be the lucky ticket holders who won the grand cosmic lottery.
But the math regarding the origin of life's digital code is so staggering that some of the top scientists in the world have proposed a truly wild alternative theory called panspermia. Floated by towering figures like DNA co-discoverer Francis Crick, and even mentioned by Richard Dawkins, this is the hypothesis that life's complex code was designed or evolved somewhere else in the universe and was basically transported to Earth by an advanced alien intelligence. It's a real testament to how incredibly difficult the origin of life problem is that leading scientists have seriously explored this concept.
Meyer, however, is quick to point out three major logical flaws with the alien simulation theory. First, he argues it merely kicks the can down the road, right? It pushes the origin of information problem out into deep space without actually solving it. Second, an alien living inside the universe couldn't possibly be responsible for the fine-tuning of physics that had to be present at the exact moment of the Big Bang to allow that alien to evolve in the first place. And third, well, it completely fails to explain where the cosmos itself came from.
And, Meyer also reminds us that the idea of a designed universe is not inherently anti-science. Actually, historical giants of physics like Isaac Newton, Johannes Kepler, and James Clerk Maxwell, these were men of deep, profound faith. They actively viewed their groundbreaking scientific work not as a refutation of God, but as the act of discovering and explicating the brilliant mind of a creator who purposely built an orderly universe.
So, where does that leave us? We're right back to staring at the ultimate question. After looking at the definitive beginning of the cosmos, the razor-thin margins of physics, and the absolutely staggering digital machinery inside our own cells, what do you conclude? Does the universe point to an unguided, incredibly lucky cosmic lottery, or are we looking at the deliberate blueprint of a transcendent intelligence? It is a debate that continues to challenge the greatest minds on Earth, and it's absolutely one worth exploring for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.